Hey guys, welcome to the Immaculate Perceptions podcast. We are now on episode 6. So glad you joined us today. I am your co-host, BitBoy. These are your other two co-hosts, Armondo, aka Crypto Terp, and Andy, aka Producer, by the way. How are you guys doing this week?
Doing awesome, man. Right in Wrigley Field. Doing a special live broadcast for y'all. No, I'm just kidding. Armando said it looks like that. So I'm ready, man. I've been kind of busy, so in and out of sports, but we got stuff to talk about. That's for sure.
I'm good, man. You know, I tweaked my back yesterday. I'm not sure what I did or how I did it, but I'm feeling it every time I move my arms. I'm playing hurt. I'm playing regardless, and I'm not going to let my team down, so I'm excited.
And one note, if I curse, I owe you guys both $1. So I'm going to try not to.
I have a swear jar right here.
I wanted to offer that up to you guys.
Sit it on my desk. So
I'm going to offer that up.
Yeah, it's been a fun weekend, man. Fun sports weekend. It is, the last great weekend of the NCAA tournament. The last 4 days, we've gotten a lot of good games, a lot of big upsets. 2 of the number 1 seeds went down. Almost a third one went down last night, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, as you guys can see behind me. But yeah, it's been fun, and it's interesting because, we focus a lot on this podcast with the AAF, and up until the last couple weekends, the AAF hasn't really had anything to compete against, But finally, the last couple weeks with the NCAA tournament in full swing, definitely more people are going to be watching that, obviously. So, but then after this, of course, there's another lull in sports. We were talking before we went on, this is kind of the dead time of sports. I mean, we don't have the NBA playoffs going on yet. March Madness is coming to a close. Football is not happening, at least NFL football. Draft talk isn't really hyped up. Free agents have already been signed, so it's kind of just a lull time. So what are you guys doing to, get your sports fix?
Well, I think that it's a good example. I think you just gave a great example why spring football might work now, because I think the AAF is having some success. We'll get into it, but I'm still hearing they're having financial issues, but I think that if anything, at least there's that. But to be honest, guys, it's not like the AAF has really pulled me in where I'm like, oh man, it's not like a football NFL Sunday feeling,
right. Yeah.
So to be honest, it's your typical Sports Center in the morning, see what's going on, and not a major focus. It is a lull for me. But AAF helps a little bit.
Yeah, I have a couple of podcasts that I listen to almost religiously, especially Speak for Yourself with Jason Whitlock and Marcellus Wiley. They're hilarious. They keep it 100% and they pull no punches. And so they keep me updated on everything I need to know in the great wide world of sports.
Well, that's so good. Great. That's so great.
I'm so happy for you.
And I know what you're saying, Andy. It's like, It's nice to be able to flip it on a Saturday and watch it. But I'm not going to rearrange my entire day. When the Falcons are playing, I rearrange, you guys don't even know some of the things I've got, had to not do in order to watch a football game, missed family Christmas party, the whole 9 yards. If the Falcons are playing, I'm watching, period. So, definitely, but it's a new league, and, and if we're completely honest about it, it's a new league. But it's B-level talent. These are not. Some of them can make it back to the A-League, but it's not the same brand of football as NFL. But there's some quirky things about it that make it pretty entertaining.
Yeah,
true.
No, that's very true.
Yeah. So
I'm a Jets fan. I'm the same way you are. I need to watch the games. I had a job I remember in college, and I said, only thing is I can't do Sundays. And he's like, why? I was like, be completely honest, I need to watch my football games.
Yeah.
And he ended up giving me that day off. So
well, it's real life, I mean, once football season comes around, all bets are off, even though there's a lot of bets going on. But okay, well let's recap the AAF, the stuff that just happened this weekend. I know Johnny Manziel, I believe he started, but either way, he did get hurt. He got a concussion in the Memphis Express versus Apollos game. And believe it or not, the Apollos were actually not doing that great, and Memphis had a great chance to beat them. And I think we got a clip we want to show from that game.
Yeah, let's throw to a clip.
Okay, let's throw to a clip. Here we go. All right.
They do. Over 30 points.
Ugh.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Seriously?
All right.
My goodness, what a critical error.
I love
Wow,
that. What a
so-
critical error.
Let's talk about why this clip is important. It justifies the whole season for the Memphis Express.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the Memphis Express in one clip, right? They're up. They're doing good this game. Manziel's out, and that guy Silver pops in, and he's doing all right. And the defense is holding up against the best team, right, guys?
Yeah.
The best team.
Easily.
We could all say easily the number one team in the league. Gilbert was having an all right game, but still kind of pulled it together. But man, Singletary, I feel really bad for him. But I think that there's no way that I think a lot of these coaches this year are not going to get fired. Like, we can't be talking about Singletary getting fired. This guy's had some bad luck.
Yeah.
He's had some bad luck. But again, Memphis Express have come more alive of late. They had this terrible thing happen to them, but it reminds me of the Jets, because we always have bad things happen during the best moments, like right where you're supposed to be. You know, championship teams are champions because good things happen to them. Bad things happen to the Memphis Express. Bad things happen to the Jets. We're just that kind of franchise. The Browns are like that. A bunch of other teams, of course.
It definitely can be argued the Falcons are like that. I mean,
But
in,
it's
in,
cool.
in our biggest
Yeah.
moment in the Super Bowl, we had the biggest joke in all of sports. So
Yeah, and thanks, Ben, for including. I guess we're adding some highlights and some updates to the show,
Yeah.
so we can interact and react to it. Also, let's not forget that the Fleet played the Stallions. Really, just not a really great game to watch. I watched the
was-
highlights.
a defensive battle.
You got a baseball score. You got 8-3.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, my
So you got a baseball score. It's like the Stallions, they won the game, not really fancy. And the Fleet, that was not a good win for them coming in, riding into the playoffs or trying to ride into the playoffs.
Well,
So,
the,
and then
the
later,
hot shots have now been lifted up into that 2 spot to make the playoffs.
dude, I picked the hot shots. I like the hot
Me
shots. I
too.
think they have a really good team.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, later today, the Hot Shots will be playing the Commanders, the San Antonio Commanders, at 5 p.m. Specific out here. I guess that's 6-8 your time.
Yeah.
On NFL Network. And of course, your Atlanta legends, sir, are playing the Birmingham Iron, who I think are coming off a loss themselves.
Yeah, this is actually a big game because even though a few weeks ago I said the Atlanta Legends should be completely done for the playoffs, if they can win this game against the Iron, that would put them only 1 game behind the Iron. And I don't know how the tiebreaker procedures work yet, but I mean, if they can get this win against them in convincing fashion, then they could be right back in it, just 1 game out. I mean, and that's all you can ask for as a football fan, is that your team by the last week of the season is still in it, even if it's a far-fetched scenario. Whatever it might be, as long as your team is in it to possibly continue playing for the second season, then that's good. So I would hate to see them lose today, and pretty much if they lose today, they're 100% finished. So
Right.
Yeah.
And this is like the last straw for Birmingham, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. They might still sneak into the playoffs. I don't know.
no, Birmingham. If Birmingham wins this game, they're in the playoffs. I mean, because
They're in the playoffs, but
they would be 3 games ahead of Atlanta.
I
for the
forget that they
same
had a good record in the beginning. They were winning
Yeah.
games a lot.
Yeah,
Andy, I
and
got a question for you, if I can just jump in real quick. So I want to go back to Orlando, Memphis. We saw the clip, and as comedically hilarious and unfortunate as it was for Memphis, I couldn't help but notice the score. Memphis was up. Do you guys think that Orlando just looked at Memphis and said, these guys are bums? Our record is way better than theirs, and played down to the level of their competition? Or
I
what
don't
do you
think-
I
happened?
don't think so.
I don't think so, because I actually do think the Memphis Express have gradually
I agree.
progressed. Once they got Hackenberg out of man, what a waste putting him as a starter.
Yes.
He is the reason. Literally, Singletary's worst move was starting Hackenberg. He's the reason they got off to a bad start. That guy was a mess. Holy
Okay.
crap.
Okay.
I think that it just goes to show you that in the Alliance, on any given Saturday or Sunday,
Any given
Right?
weekend. Yeah.
any
Exactly.
given Alliance.
Well, and plus, when you take into consideration the weather wasn't good. It was
Weather
rainy.
was really bad.
That affects games in all kinds of ways. I mean, we've seen really wacky things happen, in games like that. So, all right, Andy. So you want to tell us, I think, about some other alternate football news?
Yeah, alternate football, like that way of using the term. Spring football, of course, we've talked about the XFL because I think if we make it another year on this show, we want to talk XFL and AAF, going at it. Vince McMahon sold 3.2 million shares of WWE stock in order to fund roughly, that equates to $272 million that he is now putting into what's called Alpha Entertainment. Now, Alpha Entertainment, Vince McMahon is saying that this is a separate from WWE. He's trying to start a sports entertainment company. So there's apparently going to be some other investments besides the XFL, and he's saying, I am Vince McMahon. I am risky. I take risks. There's reasons why this man is where he is because he does things like this. Okay. So I will say that this is ballsy, but he can afford to do it. So he only sold I think it was about 4% of his WWE shares. He was probably sitting at his desk. And they're like, Vince, I think, our projections, if you really want to give it to the AAF and you want to do all this stuff, we're going to need another round of funding. He's like, all right, sell 4% of my share and just dump it over. All in one swoop. Now, remember the AAF had to find someone to just come out of nowhere to invest, like the guy from North Carolina. Vince has the advantage, and I think this is proof, right? So this makes me more excited. Hey, Vince, you're going to pump more money into this? It sounds like you're passionate about the XFL. This is your second chance. First of all, he said, we're going to take 2 years to make it. So he's like, we're not going to make it in one. Smart guy. And now he's pumping in more money. So that I like the idea. What do you guys think of this?
I love it. I think, being a purebred capitalist, the right way, not crony capitalism, when you have competition, the consumers win. Us being consumers of football, whether it's spring or NFL, when you have more competition, more players playing, whether they want to get back into the NFL or make it for the first time, I think we all win. Yeah, you're going to see some muff punts like we just saw on Ben's screen there, but at the end of the day, the customers win. I'm really excited. I just hope, and I don't know if it's been enough time, but I hope that the running back, number 30, and they have the custom nicknames, He Hate Me. If He Hate Me has a son old enough, I want to see He Hate Me Jr. in the XFL.
I would love that.
Yeah, but, I think, I think that Vince McMahon he's a lot like Donald Trump to me before presidency, He goes into a lot of ventures and he's been very successful. He's made a lot of money. He's also had some epic failures. And, when we look back at some of the most successful people in the world, there are people that don't give up once they fail. And so, even if this second XFL venture fails again, number one, he's still going to have money. And number two, we can look at him as someone who didn't give up. He knows he botched it up the first time and he wants a chance to fix it because he really believes that there is a window for spring football. And, I think we agree with that. So
I think, and that's the main reason that the AAF was created, because it was based off of him. This whole AAF is only because of him.
Yeah.
Because Vince came up with there have been other leagues, but Vince was like really pushing this idea, but he was a little bit behind. And now he's like, okay, 19 years later, here we go. And guess what? He's also getting older and he's got this money. If I was him, I'd say, you know what? I'm going to even be riskier in my old age. Forget it. Who cares? The WWE is seated in the American society. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Whether it does good ratings or bad, it ain't going nowhere.
Well, what do you think about the only other league I can really think comparable to these two that did see some success was the Arena Football League, which was around for a while, but it never seemed to gain the traction that I feel like the AAF and in terms of popularity and people watching and the TV coverage and things like that. Why do you guys think that is?
Well, can I jump in real quick? I think for me anyway, I started watching it when it first came out, and it was almost like soccer versus indoor soccer, right? The fields are different sizes. You could use stuff off the walls. The shortened fields. People were constantly running before the ball was snapped, kind of like Canadian football has that too. It didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel like the traditional football I was used to watching. And for that, I was like, thanks, but no thanks.
I agree 100% with that. That's my thought as well. Andy? Wait. Oh, Andy, we can't hear you anymore.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I've been muting because
Oh.
I'm sorry. I've been muting because I got airplanes going over the top. But what was the question again, Ben? Sorry.
It was basically, why did the Arena Football League not take off? Because it seemed to be kind of popular with some people, but
because it's not football, Ben.
Exactly.
That's the answer. It's not.
I didn't like it.
It was another game trying to take the idea of baseball. I mean, I'm thinking of Basketball, the movie where they combine basketball.
Same
and
thing,
baseball.
yeah.
Same idea. They're like, let's turn
That's such a great
hockey
movie.
and football. Like, let's make them slam each other into the.
Oh, it's like when they did the basketball league that was all trampolines. Do you remember that?
Oh God!
Yeah.
They even had a live draft for that and everything. They were trying to make that a real thing. Slam ball.
It
They have the big three though. The big three now. You guys watching that?
The big three is Is it going on right now? I haven't seen anything about it for a while.
I think the season's over right now, and it'll pick back up once the NBA season's done.
Oh yeah,
but I kind of dig it.
I watched last year. Yeah, it's because it's the same thing. It's real basketball. It's just 3-on-3 instead of 5-on-5.
That's pretty cool though.
Yeah,
I didn't know about that. No.
Yeah, and they had good players. The Al Harrington teams last year. Al Harrington's team dominated the league last year. I think they went undefeated, but. And that one's cool because you got there are players who've retired. Some guys that didn't quite make it in the NBA. Like you remember they played 3, 4, 5 years and you didn't hear from them anymore. And then they pop up in this league. And, like Al Harrington was by far the best basketball player in that whole league. And you had some reputable, players in there. He certainly wasn't the only one you'd recognize. I mean, Nate Robinson, I think, played in it.
Rashard Lewis, Baron Davis. Yeah. You had plenty of players.
And Al Harrington was the king of all of them. He played for the Hawks for a while. But anyways, guys, okay, well, let's move on. I think we had our social media post of the week here. I think we have Andy's favorite guy here. We're going to show.
My favorite.
Your favorite
wide
guy?
receiver.
Here we go.
And my favorite sports Twitter guy.
Uh-oh. We're having some problems with the share here. Hold on one second.
We got to fire that guy. Someone got fired on our show.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. So here it is. Here's the tweet. Andy wants to read it, but I'm going to read it. This is from your boy, Robbie Anderson. Because I want to be known for this quote.
Okay.
The circulation of your thoughts tend to become the circumstances of your life. Good or bad, choose wisely.
I love it.
Robbie Anderson, his tweets are he also wrote, I'm wise, don't be fooled by how I type or whatever you might think. First of all, someone posted, I don't know if I said on the podcast, someone on the Reddit said, here's our problem child receiver, but here's the thing, he doesn't beat women and he's not an alcoholic.
Yeah.
He's just kind of like a nutball, and I love the guy. And you know what? Fun fact about him, a noon one went down. This guy stepped up this year at the end of the season. He proved to me that this guy could ball. So I think if you got a fantasy wide receiver, you need a second, third, take Robbie Anderson.
Fantasy advice. Sam Darnold in his second year. You got L. Bell for the dump offs in the screen game.
L. Bell, look at you.
The Jets offense.
You're a regular Matthew
pretty
Berry.
good on paper. We'll see.
Can't wait. So Robbie, I love you, bro.
Number one fan over here. So
number one Robbie Anderson fan.
So let's move on to our one of our two topics today, which is the NCAA tournament. So this weekend has been pretty good. There's been some really good games. We watched Auburn upset North Carolina, which I predicted in my bracket. But anyways, I digress.
Nice.
But they did actually lose their best player at the end of the game to a knee injury, so he will probably be done for. So I don't know if they'll beat Kentucky today or not, but it'll be pretty interesting to watch. But The story I really want to focus on is, well, before I get to the story, also, we had Duke almost lose again. So now 2 games in a row against UCF last Sunday, and then this week on Friday against Virginia Tech, we watched Duke win a game that they really had no business winning because a player at the last second of both games for the other team missed a wide open layup. Twice in a row. Missed a wide open layup with no time left to lose the game. So, but, speaking of clutch and what clutch is, we got Virginia, who last year were the first number 1 in history to get beat by a number 16. And, it wasn't even a close game. I mean, they got beat bad.
UMBC, baby. Representing UMBC.
I think we all thought that if it was a 16 seed to beat a 1, it would be, a last second heave or a miracle shot or something quirky to happen at the end of the game. But that did not happen. So they got beat pretty bad. So this year they're facing Gardner-Webb in the first round, and they were actually down by 14 points in that game. And everybody's thinking, here Virginia is again. They're going to go down. And last night, what I believe to be the best game of the tournament so far, Virginia versus Purdue. Purdue has a player, I can't remember his name, but he scored 42 points. He actually now has the record for most points through 4 games in the tournament. And he also, even though Purdue lost last night, he already had the most threes ever in a NCAA tournament, period. So pretty miraculous considering he only played 4 games. But basically what happened is the game came down to the very end. Purdue was a one-man wrecking crew with their point guard. And he hit a 3-pointer, and Virginia was down by 3 points. With 5.9 seconds left, one of Virginia's players get fouled, and it's a 2-point shot. So he makes the first one, and then that sets up this play that we are about to watch right now. So let's check out this play.
Check it out.
There it is. Let's see. And for some reason, it's not popping up. Hold on. Let me get the right play here. There it is.
Carson Edwards is his name.
The guy. Oh, yeah. The player for Purdue. Carson Edwards. That's right. I should have known that. He was an animal. So this sets up this play. They've made the first shot. It's now 68-70 with 5.9 seconds. And let me add, Purdue was shooting free throws up by 2 points. So they had Virginia had shot the ball. Purdue got an awesome offensive rebound. A lot of people thought to seal the game. The guy gets fouled, and then he only made 1 out of the 2 free throws. Got to make your free throws, guys. That would have made it a 2-possession game. But instead, he only made 1. Purdue gets the ball, the 1 free throw, and then this sets up what happens here with 5.9 seconds left.
Brady Eifert who secured it. 2-point game. Jerome, short, back tap, Diakite, a race for it, into the hands of Clark, got a chance to win it here, up the front, here's Diakite for the win!
Wow. But it was a phenomenal play. Yeah, so it was a phenomenal play.
Wow.
And a lot of people say that Virginia is the best fundamental team in the NCAA. They play slow. They don't play fast-paced like a lot of other teams do. They're very defensive-focused. And after the game, some of the commentators made the point of, look at what happened there. With 5.9 seconds left, they shoot the second free throw, and the player with the blonde hair behind me who makes the game-winning or the game-tying shot, he actually treated it just like it was any other free throw at any other point of the game and did a tip-out. That's all he was trying to do. He jumped in. He did a tip-out that you're supposed to do on any free throw attempt if you're on the offense. And the ball, as soon as the ball went so far back on the backcourt, I was like, oh, man, there's no way they're going to be able to get this shot off. And then the guy made an awesome pass. The guy was wide open and made that shot. It was really incredible. I mean, I was thrilled to be watching it. Virginia goes on to win in overtime.
That was cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. So the question is, we have Virginia now in the Final Four who has a chance to win the championship, to go from the team last year that lost in the first round as a 16 seed or versus 16 seed ever, possibly to winning a championship, at least to the Final Four. And I think that's pretty clutch. I think they went from being the biggest choker last year to the most clutch this year so far. The only number 1 seed so far to make it in, and the most, there will be 2 if Duke wins today. So here's the question. Who is someone in sports that you can think of, or a team that was known for being a giant choker who ended up coming through in the clutch and doesn't have that label anymore?
I'll go first. It's kind of easy.
Okay. And Andy, you go first. No, I'm just kidding.
You want
Armondo, go.
So the person who I used to think was the best basketball player of all time has now since been demoted. That's going to be LeBron James. Coming in as the most highly touted high school basketball player in the history of professional basketball. I don't think that's an understatement or hyperbole. He came in, a lot of hype, was able to manage the hype pretty well. And after struggling and carrying Cavalier teams to the final after finals and not winning, goes to Miami for not 1, not 2, not 3 championships, etc. But in his very first finals, goes up against the buzzsaw Dallas Mavericks with Dirk and company, and doesn't end up pulling through, even though their roster had more talent.
Well, it was his second finals. He had the one.
Oh, it was the second final? Okay.
Yeah, the one against the Spurs with Cleveland. They got swept.
Right. So, but that was kind of expected because the Spurs are so much more dominant, right? But to lose against the Mavericks was a massive blemish on his record. And he heard the critics. And since then, rattled off a couple more championships in Miami, went on to win with the Cavaliers, and is now doing what could be a massively failed experiment in Los Angeles. But he doesn't have a lot of good players there either, kind of like Cleveland, but losing to Dallas to be able to bounce back and win chips after that, definitely LeBron James.
All right, so I'm going to pick, it's NFL related. Let's go back to 1969 when the AFL was considered terrible and they would never beat an NFL team in the Super Bowl. What happened? Joe Namath says, we're going to win. They go in and AFC, we're talking about the Colts back then, were one of the greatest teams of all time. They were unstoppable, but did they win? They lost. And it changed the course of history. And the Jets will go down as the team that changed the course of NFL AFC history in being a league that was considered not successful and it wouldn't be, and that the merger was a mistake, but they proved it was wrong because they thought they thought the AFC was going to win or the NFL was going to win all the Super Bowls. That's how they thought. Wow. So there you go. I tied the Jets in. I'm sorry, guys. Honorable mentions: Kurt Warner, Don Beebe, Tom Brady, 7th round draft pick, for Christ's sake. And only because of an injury did he start. And now he's the greatest quarterback that ever lived. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that. Michael Jordan, I heard, when he came into the league, he wasn't magic. He wasn't like, give me shoes and all this stuff.
Well, he had never won a playoff series, the first several years that he was in Chicago. And, once he finally won one, he won the championship 3 years in a row. So, but
when he had
Scottie Pippen. Here goes Armondo. Armondo likes to talk about Michael Jordan supporting cast like they were great. If Michael Jordan was not on that team with Scottie Pippen, Pippen would not be considered a Hall of Famer. He would not be considered a Hall of Famer if he did not play with Michael Jordan. Scottie Pippen by himself could have never led a team. He just happened to be lucky enough that he ended up getting the greatest player of all time on his team to constantly make him look good.
When Jordan left during his little mini retirement, the Bulls went from 56 wins to 54 wins. There was very minimal drop-off.
Did they go to the finals those 2 years? No.
They did not, but Pippen still stepped it up, and Pippen was never Michael Jordan, okay? But he was a really great Hall of Fame basketball player.
Top 50 all time.
Scottie Pippen would have never won a championship as the best player on his team.
Maybe. That's not true.
As the best player on his team, he would have never – he went to Portland. They did okay.
I know. They did okay, but that's where he was on the tail end of his career anyway in those days.
Yeah, so, I mean, and I don't know. If you can make that argument about somebody and say – they could never have been the best player on their team and won a championship, then how are they a Hall of Famer? He's only in the Hall of Fame because of Michael Jordan. So
all right.
So is Dwayne Wade going to be a Hall of Famer just because he played with Shaq and then LeBron?
Yeah, but he won a championship.
He won without them.
He won with Shaq. He didn't win by himself.
You can make the argument that he was better. You can make the argument he
You're
was a
right.
better player than Shaq on that team.
Dwayne Wade
You can't make that argument with Scottie
Miami.
Pippen ever.
You don't understand. Dwayne Wade in Miami or in Florida is considered Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
They love Dwayne Wade. He is a Hall of Famer just because when LeBron went there, LeBron was second to Dwayne Wade. And so was Chris Bosh. They were all
in hearts and minds, but not on the hardwood.
You ever see like a cover of like a music album? Dwayne Wade was in the middle with his arms around that.
Yeah.
He's the one that I think Dwayne Wade is without you can't even, that's not even a conversation. He's a Hall of Famer.
No, I agree. He's definitely a Hall of Famer. But here's the thing about this debate about players or teams that were chokers that ended up coming through. It's easier to do with coaches. Honestly, it's easier to name coaches because they have longer careers than athletes have. And you look at somebody like Roy Williams is someone I wanted to bring up because I remember before Roy Williams went to North Carolina, he was seen as a choker. He was seen as someone who could never win the big one. Because with Kansas, he had several teams that they should have been in the championship or won it, and they did not. A lot of early, tournament exits. And then he goes to North Carolina, and I don't know if he's won 2 or 3. He's won at least 2. I think it's 3. And he does not have that label anymore. And if you were to talk to someone who's younger, who didn't grow up watching Roy Williams at Kansas, they wouldn't even know he had that label. They'd be like, what? At one time he was seen as someone who couldn't win the big one. So, that's a great example to me of someone who just everybody believed that about him for so long, and then he finally got over the hump. Same thing with Jim Boeheim. Jim Boeheim finally won his championship with Carmelo. And, outside that, he was seen as a big choker. Larry Brown, a coach, was also seen the same way. I don't know if Larry Brown ever did get a championship anywhere. I don't know. I'm not sure. I
don't think so.
Yeah.
He's a great coach.
That's always the argument, who is the best coach that hasn't won a championship, So
Andy Reid?
Andy Reid is definitely on that list for sure.
Oh, he's definitely there. Yeah.
He's the number one right now, I would say. So, yeah. Well, speaking of the NFL, let's switch gears a little bit, and let's talk about a big decision that was made this week that I don't know if any of us agree with. I don't know. Maybe someone will take that route. But after the Saints-Rams botch play at the end of the game, which as a Falcons fan, I would like to continually say thank you forever. My gratitude is indebted to those referees for missing that play. But I, as a common sense fan, am logical enough to say that yes, it definitely was pass interference. It should have been called. The Rams still would have got the ball with like a minute left and had a chance, But the NFL Rules Committee this week has ruled to allow for 1 year. This is not a permanent change. They're not permanently adopting this. It's basically a tryout, kind of like they did with instant replay back in the early 90s. And then they got rid of it for a while before they brought it back in the current style we know today. They're bringing it for a test run to be able to challenge any offensive or defensive pass interference call. So what do you guys think about that?
So can I just ask to clarify, does that mean the flag has to be thrown? We cannot call, like the coach can't say, hey, that's a pass interference and throw a flag. It has to be the refs calling the pass interference. Correct?
Because that would totally defeat the purpose of what happened last year. Because last year the flag did not get thrown.
Oh my God. Well, that's even worse.
Yes, I agree.
I think this is absolutely retarded. And I just think that it's probably the worst thing they could do. We're talking about making it's shorter. How is this going to help? Now we're all going to have to sit back and deal with this.
It'll be a 5-hour-long game. Listen, the first time that happens, it'll be done.
Yeah, and the fact that the AAF, do what the AAF is doing. Let me just see the booth and let me see them talk. If they didn't call the flag, too bad. The referees need to be accountable for something, right? I'm sorry, they do. Like, this was a big argument for the umpires with instant replay in the MLB because the umpires in control of the game. That's how it works, right? They're accountable for being refs, right?
Sure.
So,
but they're human. They're going to make mistakes. But at the end of the day, This is all because Sean Payton, head coach of the New Orleans Saints, is butthurt after what happened in the last year's playoffs. He's on the competition committee, and he ended up doing all of the different things to pay people off or to get his way to get this done. Thankfully, it's not a long-term thing. It's only a 1-year rental as a tryout. But at the end of the day,
Come on, man.
Saints should have made better plays. Instead of throwing it when you're in the red zone, you run the ball, you bleed the clock. They should have never put themselves in that position in the first place. So shame on Sean Payton, shame on the Saints.
It just sounds like the NFL is doing like the opposite things they're supposed to be doing. I get it. The concussion stuff is good. I think doing the third-party doctor stuff, great. Like that. I'm all for that. But this whole why are we even talking about instant replay again? I know Sean Payton, but this should have been kiboshed. The owners have to vote this through too, don't they?
No, it's a done deal at this point. So I'm not sure.
No, but I thought the owners have to set up the vote as well.
They may have, but whatever it is, it's in. This is official. So maybe the owners did vote for it, but it has to be, I believe, 3/4 of the owners.
It's a whining rule because they're whining. They're like, oh, I want to be able to call a flag on your horrible call because I'm pissed. Well, too bad. This is the NFL. This is how it's supposed to be. Tough.
Guess how many challenge flags the coaches have now?
Like
still
8.
2, right?
Still 2.
Yeah.
Change his rule, but you still only have 2 challenge flags.
Well, thank God for that.
This is doomed to start. Thankfully, it's only 1 year.
Let me see if I can find Sean Payton. He had a quote about this where basically he said... Go ahead. What were you going to say?
While you're looking. Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
I just think it's, I don't know. Sometimes the NFL is just, I miss the days of Paul Tagliabue. The guy was a decent commissioner. He did some things to change the league. He really did. He really moved the league into he was the bridge to make it modern. Paul Tagliabue. I'm saying his name wrong.
Paul Tagliabue.
Now, Paul, I bet you he would have said,
he was a great commissioner. I miss him so much.
He was I think he's the one that helped bring instant replay in, and I think he was there when they implemented it. Roger Goodell came later. Yeah. I think what Roger Goodell is doing, he's turning this NFL into this like conglomeration corporate freaking thing, and that's not how I looked at the NFL when Paul Tagliabue was running it, right?
Yeah.
It's
he also borrowed some tips from XFL Vince McMahon. Some of the different camera angles and stuff like that. So he's open to different ways of making the product better for fans.
And he wasn't pushed out. He was just getting old, And I think Roger Goodell is just, I don't know. What is he trying to do? What is
we all
going to be?
Make money for the owners.
Everybody hates him.
Period.
But, the thing, I couldn't find the quote, but basically what Sean Payton said a couple weeks ago was, if the NFL does not change this rule, they're not doing their job. And he was putting pressure on them to make this change. Kind of almost like blackmail them, kind of like saying, like, if they don't do this, it's rigged against me from Bounty Gate, is I think the gist of what he was trying to say. And, they did end up changing the rule. And, I believe that this is going to be a disaster. At this point, each team has 2 get-out-of-jail-free cards in their back pocket for both halves, because we are going to see this used. All of these coaches it's no longer going to be like, oh, if there's just not a play, I'm going to keep this in my pocket. It's going to be, okay, there's 5 minutes left in the second quarter. I still got my 2 challenges. I'm going to find any ticky-tack thing that might be construed as pass interference, and I'm going to throw my challenge flag on it. That's what we're going to do. It is now going to become strategy, and I'll tell you who's going to use it better than anybody. We all know who it's going to be. Bill Belichick. He is going to use this so far to his advantage. It is going to be insane, because we all know that on every single NFL play, I could call an offensive holding and I could call a pass interference on a pass play. On every one, because they all use their hands. It's part of the game, So I think that this is going to...
It's going to be awful.
It's going to be awful. I totally agree, and it's going to be a huge disaster. Now, coming back to the original point of, as you were talking about the referees in the game, a lot of people have been making the argument that the referees are actually the problem here, because think about this. In sports, we've got these athletes out there. They're in the prime of their careers playing professional sports, and how old are they?
Late 20s, early 30s.
Late 20s, early 30s. and we got referees out there in their 60s, their 50s and 60s. And, basically the point here is maybe it's time for us to get, some newer, fresher referees in the game that have the eyesight. You got to think of the eyesight. When you get older, your eyesight goes down. That's another one of the advantages that people, in their prime of their life, health-wise, have is their eyesight is the best it's going to be, in their lifetime. So what do you guys think about that?
What I think about that is I'm going to bring up the AAF. The AAF is doing a conscious decisions with the referee, how their refs look. I think their referees look younger. They also have 3 women on staff as referees.
Yeah.
And these women are not old. These women are in their 30s. And did you notice the AAF refs are, maybe the oldest guy's in his 40s? I think they're doing a service to the refs where in the NFL, they're hurting the refs and they're making their job just crazier. They're just like, I bet you the refs are sitting in the ref room in some ref bar and they're all looking at each other like, man, they're really just making it hard for us to be acceptable as that's a ref, all right? You think about a line judge in tennis. Like, he makes all the shots. His decision matters most.
But
right?
They do something cool in tennis, though. They have the computer graphic image where the ball hits the line, and you can see that, and it's pretty clear.
But if they said that you could challenge the computer animated tennis thing now, that's something the NFL would do. Like in the future, say we have a computer thing, they're going to vote in, now you could challenge the computer against its call. I don't like what
still only have 2 flags, right? So they're not going to be able to do it all the time.
Yeah.
What I'm really interested to see is the Hail Mary. End of the half, end of the game, before usually refs swallow their whistles at the end of half.
It'll be that's still, it's within the 2 minutes. It can't be a challenge. It has to be from the booth.
Even still?
True.
Yeah, of course. They're not going to change when the coaches can throw the flag just because they have an extra, because the point is. So
I'll throw my Hail Mary 3 minutes before the end of the half.
So that's why, this is supposed to be to appease Sean Payton because, the booth obviously would have called on that egregious of a play, So I think in the last 2 minutes of the game, it's going to have to be egregious. I think the referees are going to have a really hard time justifying passing. And what are we going to do? Are we going to say if it's egregious? Or are we going to say if a guy's got his hand on another guy because that's every play?
Well, the tuck rule is a good example of getting rid of something that wasn't necessary. I think they got rid of the tuck rule, right? Or is that still happening?
No,
that's still a thing because of Brady.
But I thought they changed.
They rewrote it so it's clear.
They rewrote it. So I don't like the test. This is not tested in preseason. What are they doing putting it into the league? Like, why not say, let's test it in preseason? Why are they going to do this right now to us?
Well, didn't they do
I just
that?
don't like.
Didn't they do that with overtime rules a couple of years ago or something? They
probably
tested in the preseason,
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I love the NFL. Absolutely love it. But I hate their it's like any movie you've seen where the suits, they're the corporate suits are taking over the industry of, that's why the renaissance is the AAF and the XFL. At least that's like kind of changing the bag a little bit.
If you look at the Falcons, the suits, so to speak, have really ruined our new stadium, and it's very unfortunate because our new stadium is 100% season tickets. So there's no individual tickets for the games, and so what has happened in Atlanta that doesn't have the same kind of draw to NFL that some of the other cities have is almost all of those seats are bought by number 1 ticket brokers or number 2 businesses, who buy them for their clients or whatever, and they may only use one of those tickets a week. They really buy them for the one of those sets of tickets per year because they just buy them for the write-off. And if they have a big client in town, they may want to take them, to the game.
Sure.
And so you look at Atlanta, and our stadium, even for a huge game, is usually only 80% full at best. Sometimes it's less than that. And there's empty seats everywhere, but yet they're able to say that it's a sellout because all of the season tickets were sold out, but the people aren't coming. So, and I'll tell you, at the end of last year, the attendance in the games was very rough once we were out of the playoffs. It was very rough. Wow. It was terrible. So
we'll see. I can't see this lasting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of like, all right, we got to deal with that now. All right.
Yeah.
Fine. I am excited for football, though.
Yeah, me too. So we got the draft coming up. We're going to be on a hiatus for 2 weeks. I'm going to be on vacation. Got some different stuff going on, so we'll be on hiatus for the next 2 weeks. And so I think we'll have one episode before our NFL draft live stream.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, so that's
Thursday night. Thursday night, like what is it? 8 your time?
I think so. Something like that. Yeah. 7:30.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So yeah, we'll get on a couple minutes before, and then we'll talk about the picks, and it'll be pretty fun. I don't know if we'll make it the whole night. Maybe just through the first 15 or something. I'm not sure yet. We'll just we'll have to fill it. But that brings us to the close of today's episode number 6 of Immaculate Perceptions. All we got left is our 30 seconds to glory, where we each get to rant about something. And since I think I'm the only sports ranter, I'll let you guys go first.
I was going to talk about sports again because I always tell you guys what I'm going to talk about, and I never talk about what I tell you. It's like my thing. But I will talk about video games here. I've been getting into anime, and I also love video games. So I like anime, video game centric stuff. And I discovered the show on Netflix that came out a year ago. That's a Japanese port to Netflix. It's called High Score Girl. And it's literally about 1991. It takes place in Japan when Street Fighter II came out. And they use real retro video game footage intertwined with them playing in the anime. So it's using real video. And that's just not only Street Fighter. They talk about other retro games. And as you guys know, if you look at my Twitter, I'm very into retro gaming. This show is hitting home for me because they even tell you how you do special moves with characters.
Oh, cool.
Really, really cool. I love it. If you like anime and gaming, check it out. I mean, it's kind of like a harmless plug. It's not a glory thing, but they actually are doing something I've never seen before where it's like real gaming footage put into an anime. So pretty cool. Otherwise, have a great week.
Awesome. For me, it's simple. Baseball season just started. It's springtime. The sun is out here in Maryland. Take some time if you're able to. If you have a AA, AAA, or even a major league team, if you can get some cheap tickets, enjoy the sun, grab a hot dog, grab the family, watch some baseball while the season's still fresh. The grass is cut. It's not humid and you're sweating for no reason. This is the perfect time to enjoy some baseball before things get nuts. So I plan on doing that in the next couple of weeks. I implore you to do the same.
I also would like to talk to you, MLB. Opening day, a.k.a. opening night, was on Thursday night. And guess what, guys? I didn't even know it was happening. And I think this really speaks to the problem that baseball has. It isn't only in a sport with outdated rules, and it's a very hard to watch sport oftentimes because of the slow action. But also, it has fallen way behind marketing-wise and technologically from the other sports. And if baseball looks to be revamped and maybe grab a younger audience, then it's going to have to do something about its marketing. I love sports, and I didn't even know opening night or opening day was happening. So I think that you guys have got to figure out a way to draw newer, younger blood into your sport, or else you're going to die. And I think you can take a lot of lessons from the NFL, from the NBA, and from some of the other college sports, such as college football. They do a great job advertising, a great job marketing themselves, and you guys just aren't doing it now. I'm BitBoy. Thank you.
Wow. I agree with you because MLB died for me in 2000 when the Mets got swept by the
Subway
Yankees.
Series, baby.
Yeah, you know.
Y'all are like such bitter rivals.
Ugh.
I love it.
Not really, because they're not a competition.
Whatever.
So, all right, guys, that's it. We're going to cut it off. We're going to cut it off before y'all start fighting. So, all right, guys, that's all we got for you guys this week. We will talk to you guys in a couple weeks. We will see you. Out.
IP Pod on Twitter. IP Pod on Twitter.
At IP Pod.